Hi guys, welcome to Dexter's Diary. I of course am Dexter. So if you're new, nice to meet you, and if you've been with me since the beginning, good to see you again. I just want to take some time out because I'm quite a few entries in, and I don't think I've ever really explained. And if I did explain my platform, I'm getting ready to redo it again. So, my platform is about changing the narrative, right? I really feel like the way you look at things decides how you feel about them. So, whether it's good or bad, it's really about your outlook and how you view it. And it's not to say that some things aren't innately good and some things aren't innately bad, but your outlook is the biggest thing. Your perspective is the biggest thing that determines how this thing moves in your life. And I've told you a bit of my story and things that I've gone through. And there was a moment in time, there's been a few moments where I just felt like maybe therapy would be a good option for me. But I'm one of those people who feel like I'm too smart for therapy, and it's not to throw shade at anybody or whatever. It's just I just felt like I'm a fixer, and I just feel like I can fix things in my life, and I don't need any outside forces. But there are times where I just feel like you can become overwhelmed with the stuff that's in your head and the things going on in your life. And at a younger point, I was thrust into situations where they were like, okay, we're going to give you a therapist. And I think my first time I went to therapy, I was probably in like the 4th grade. Yeah, shit was real. And this is not to be shady. This is not to say that certain people can't do the job or whatever. But they gave me a white therapist. And like, she was cool. This is not to discredit her at all. To be completely honest, I don't think I even remember her name. But if I did, I still wouldn't say it. But this is not to discredit her at all. I don't think, though, as a whole, I don't think she was comfortable working with children of color. I don't think she really understood where they were coming from, what all was going on in their lives and things like that. So, and being that she was a child therapist, I basically just went there. It was like a free period. Like, I just basically went there and we played checkers or we played games or whatever, but we didn't really talk. And I think, for the most part, I don't really think she knew how to communicate with me. And being at that age, and black people have this thing, and it's horrible, but I understand it. But you don't talk, no matter what goes on in the home, you don't talk about what's going on in the home. Like, nobody in the street is supposed to know your business. And so it was something that I held really close to. It was something that had been instilled in me since young. So, you know, we would sit in this room and she'd ask me questions and I would deflect and talk shit and whatever, but she didn't really help me. And then years go by, and I get another therapist. And I think by this time I'm like 16. And he was nice. He was white. And he was nice. But again, he was unable to break through. And I think the biggest thing when dealing with children of color is to find someone that they can assimilate to. Like, you need to know that this person, it's easier to talk to someone who looks like you because they understand the demographic, they understand what's going on in the home, because more than likely they have a shared experience. It may not be as extreme as yours, but for the most part, people of color tend to teach their kids the same thing. Like Latinos teach their kids a certain way, black people teach their kids a certain way, Caribbean people teach their kids a certain way. But I mean, they're all parallel for the most part. But we people of color have a thing that they teach their kids, so when they go out into the world, they pretty much know what to expect. It's almost like preparation. And so I just I wasn't able to receive the help that they were trying to give me. First of all, I wasn't in the place of receiving. It was too much pain, too much hurt. There was just too much anger for it to even happen. And second of all, which probably would, in a close second, is that I didn't feel like they would really understand. And I didn't want to be, I didn't want them to judge me nor feel sorry for me, and I didn't want them to judge my people. So it was twofold, and it was just like yeah, you're never gonna get it. So I felt like I probably would have been better off with someone who looked like me. I might have been more receptive. I don't know if it would have helped, but I might have been more receptive to receiving. So I say all that to say though, and even honestly, like maybe like 6 years ago, I was working like this really crazy job and and I'm not gonna go into specifics, but even then I thought about it again, but it was really hard to find. Well, it was really challenging to find doctors of color to talk to. So I kind of just chucked the whole idea up and was like, I'll figure it out myself. And anyway, then I had my breakdown, which became my breakthrough, and yada, yada, yada. And so I say all this to say that even when telling people my story and explaining things, a lot of people tend to feel sorry for me, or they're just in awe. And I've even asked myself this, like, if you could take it all back, would you take it all back? If you can just go back and erase everything that ever hurt you, ever did all, like, would you take it all back? And I don't, to be completely honest, I would do it all over again. Excuse me. And that may sound crazy. I know a lot of people want to go back and like tweak things in their past, and there's always this concept of going back and changing things. Like there's so many, and there's movies based on this very concept. But with everything that has happened, I honestly feel like I wouldn't go back and change a thing, because you know how the universe, they talk about the universe, if you believe in science or evolution or God, it all depends on your perspective. But I'm gonna go with this one. So the universe came into play because there was a big bang, and then boom, things happened, and hence creation. Things started occurring. I sort of how I look at everything that happened to me. Like everything that happened to me was my big bang, and so it was painful. It was there was some crazy times. Some things were quite horrendous, and some things were just. But it gave birth to the person that I am today. To every thought that I had today, to the character that I carry with me, to the morality that I have, to the empathy that I have for other people going through. Like everything that happened in my life shaped me to be the woman that I am today. And I couldn't imagine being anyone else. And I think that's just a powerful place to be in, to love who you are wholeheartedly. And yeah, shit happens to everyone at different degrees, and some people just don't know how to deal with it. But everything that has happened has given me the resilience, the strength. Like I wouldn't change it. And if you look at it from that perspective, everything, like I said, everything I do is about changing the narrative. And when looking at it from that perspective, life gives birth to you. you don't give birth to life, right? Because life gives birth to you first. And as you grow, things happen, you mold it. And then once you get to a certain point of ascension, you then give birth to life. Because now you're at the point where you can create. And it's a powerful place to be in. So when you look back on all the things that have happened in your life, good, bad, or indifferent, think of it as life just giving birth to you. And now you take all that, you accumulate it, you molded it like Play-Doh or clay or whatever, and you are in a place to give birth to life. You are in a place to change the narrative because you've been there. You know what it is. It's a crushing thing to see people go through hurtful situations and continue to perpetuate that cycle. And it's like, they're still like, until the lesson is learned, until you figure out why these things keep happening. Because yeah, you could have been molested, yeah, you could have been raped, da 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 da, but you can heal from that. It doesn't ever go away. I feel like it's like one of those things, like for those of us who have scars, like if you've ever fallen and got a scar, it heals, but the scar still remains. Like, it's a reminder. And it's the same thing with emotional things. Like, you can heal from it, but there'll always be reminders, and it's okay. The brain doesn't forget trauma much, which is, unless you bury it. But if you bury it, you're not really allowing yourself to heal. You can't bury something and say you've healed from it. You have to really break it down and assess the situation and go. And sometimes it's gritty, and sometimes it's disgusting. But when you come out the other end, it's amazing. It's so, I don't even think amazing is the word for it. But I have not found another word right now that can really express what I'm trying to say. Pinkies up. But excuse me. Real people burp. I don't care. So everything that's happened, right? You gotta change how you look at things, because it's alchemy, it's transmutation. Like, everything that has happened to you in your past gives you art. It gives you something to work with. You can now take that and put it into anything and know that, yeah, this stuff happened, but I didn't die. Like, remember when that meme was going around and like, did you die though? And everybody was laughing, but there's so much truth in that. Like, did you die though? But you didn't. And there's people who've never gone through things, and one small thing happens and their whole life falls apart. I'm like, are you serious? Like, are you for real right now? Like, how did you get through life? How do you tie your shoelaces? Because there's people who've suffered through worse. And I'm not even saying like my story is like the epitome of what can happen, because I look at other people's stories and trust me, I do the work. I look at other things and I'm just like, whoa, could I survive that? And I mean, I made it through my shit, but can I survive going through that? Like, look at the stuff that is going on in the world that is bigger than you. Could you really survive that? And you gotta take inspiration from that. Like, people are going through great in this lifetime, in our lifetime, things that we thought were done, like slavery. People are still getting like kidnapped, sex trafficking, like all kinds of stuff. Like, and people are coming through the other side. So no matter what your situation is, no matter where you've been, look at that as your big bang. And now it's time for you to create life. Now it's time for you to say, you know what, that happened and it's cool, or it's not cool, but that's not all there is to me. That's not my whole story. That's not the end all and be all. You can go forth and you can change your narrative. And the moment that you do that, the moment that you look at it from a different perspective, you've literally changed your life. And you've literally stopped giving control to the people that did those things to you. You take away their power and you empower yourself. And that's the biggest thing about changing the narrative. You empower yourself. You have You have to look at things from a different perspective, because if you keep looking at it through the same lens, you're going to keep getting the same picture. The picture doesn't change unless you change. Unless you move from one position to the other, it's always going to be the same picture. If you're looking at this wall, it's going to be this wall. Until you shift here or you shift here, then you're like, oh, there's another detail. Oh, there's something I didn't see before. Like, you got to look at things differently. That's the only way to change anything. Change your life, change your position, change anything. You have to look at things objectively. And it's the hardest thing to do. I promise you, it's not. It sounds easy because you have to retrain your mind. You have to go and be like, excuse me, and be like, nah, we're not going to do this. Like, because your brain has a default setting and it's going to go back to what it knows, because essentially it feels like it's protecting you, but it's doing its job, but it's not really protecting you. It's keeping you someplace that you don't really need to be, nor do you really want to be, but you're so used to being there, you know nothing else. You have to change your narrative. You have to change your position, and you have to change your life. That's really what it is. You have to change your life. If you're unhappy, the only person that can change that is you. Not your man, not your husband, not your kids, not your job, not your boss. Nobody. You are the only person that can do that. And until you change how you look at things, it's not going to happen. So that's what we about, boo. That's it for today. Go in peace. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.